All right, welcome to Wednesdays with Wyatt. This is your host, Wyatt Elke, and this week I'm joined by Ben Larson-Pearson. How's it going, Ben?
Pretty good.
That's good. How was your weekend?
Oh, my weekend was quite eventful. How was yours?
You know, it was also pretty eventful, pretty good. You know, nice long Easter weekend.
Oh yeah, those 2 days make a big difference.
Yeah, they really do, but you know, now it's a straight shot to the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
Straight shot to the ending, graduation, so on and so forth.
But the wait begins.
So it begins, yes. All right, so I've got you on the show today because we're going to talk about some science-related stuff.
Oh, cool.
I guess. So, last year, 2012, was a pretty big year for science. There were a lot of discoveries, but, you know, some of them weren't really documented that much on the media.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of them, not a lot of people really know about. So, one that really stuck out to me, one discovery I saw was it was this an experiment with stem cells in mice.
Okay.
And these mice normally have a lifespan of 21 days, but with this injection of stem cells, they actually lived for 71 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Which, that's threefold, obviously. They equate that in humans to being roughly like an 80-year-old living to be 200.
So almost like a 100% increase in how long humans can live.
Yeah, basically. They're actually probably a little bit more than
100%, rounding down. But
yeah. So I guess what do you think consequences of that would be, I guess?
Well, I think through a long time in human history, we've been dealing with the consequences of living longer. Like nowadays, are dealing with Social Security running out because of the retirement age being what we said in 1960, but people are living longer because of medical advances. I think this is just kind of a grain from the same bag of salt, so to speak.
So sort of like a next step almost?
Yeah, it's the next step, and we're going to have to deal with this. It brings up a lot of interesting questions, like what is quality of life versus like length of life? Is it better to extend someone's quality of life or extend someone's life
without extending the quality of life?
Without extending the quality of life.
You know, it really is a question. Because, I mean, you have to think mentally, too. How are people going to deal with this once you get past... Because, obviously, as you get older, you know, your mental ability declines. In almost all cases. You know, every now and then you meet a person who's 80 and they're still as sharp as they've ever been, you know? Because generally they have to put in some work, and their genes have to be just right, you know? But stem cells... I mean, they could extend your life, but could they extend your mental life?
Yeah,
you know?
And that's one of the questions. And then there's also the question of, like, that 80-year-old you spoke of who was in, like, great mental shape probably had to work much of his life before he was 80 to get to that point. You know, he had to think about it. And now this could just essentially give people all the benefits of aging well without any of the work of aging well.
Yeah.
So what does that create? What incentives does that create?
Is there any incentive to work? I mean, obviously there's an incentive to work, but
I get
you see
what
I'm saying. Like, is there an incentive to work especially hard to make a difference when maybe you can make a difference later on? You know, it's. I think if that did happen, we would definitely have lots more procrastination just as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. But then there's also on the other side of the coin. I think this could mean a lot of like very good things for society because if you have 100 more years and say. You have more time to like learn and have people have an adolescence, so they can learn the skills that now take like a very long time to do. Because back in the Middle Ages, you know, you worked for like 2 years and you knew what you were doing and you went into your job. And then in the 60s, you know, most jobs started taking a high school degree, and now you need a college degree for most jobs because the workforce is becoming more complex. So I think basically you're going to need a life like increase to keep progressing as humans at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, definitely with the steps we've taken so far, sort of up this proverbial staircase, I guess, of, you know, adolescence will be longer in that case, too, obviously. And that's not really a bad thing, I don't think.
Yeah, and that also brings up the question, do you think, like, life if an extra 100 years were tacked on, would grow proportionally? Like, would we have spend the same amount of times in a relative adolescence, middle adulthood, and late adulthood, or would we discover totally new forms of
there would
age?
probably be new forms of, new like life periods, I guess, because, teenagers, that whole thing didn't exist until basically like the 50s.
Yeah,
when, like
the
you
modern
said,
teenagers started.
you need more of a degree to get a job at that point,
Before then, you were just a young adult.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I'm sure that would happen. I think it would be more so like it would branch more, being an adolescent would be bigger, but it would be like middle adult, young adult, I don't know. I can't think of the terms they would use. I'm sure there would be some sort of slang for it,
Of course. Slang developed in the days that 40-year-olds are considered teenagers.
Yeah, someday. I mean, teenager,
Teenager
but
in the
something like that, definitely.
more connotative sense.
But I guess in 2012 also there was another pretty big thing in Nevada, Florida, and California. They allow self-driving cars now. I guess just kind of sticking with the kind of living in the future type of idea.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. I think I read a statistic that they have gone through over 300,000 operating hours with no accidents at all.
Yeah, what I've got right here says that exact statistic actually, except it looks like there were only 2 accidents, but they occurred when people were actually driving cars physically.
So. Right. So far, we have a sample that says that self-driving cars are actually better drivers than people.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know. I think of self-driving cars. I still think of I don't know if you ever saw the movie I, Robot.
I have seen it.
And they have self-driving cars in that. And I always think of that, and it worked pretty well. Obviously in the movie some conflict arises too, but I think self-driving cars are definitely possible in the future now, especially with this,
Yeah, I think it's also a big decision that humanity has to go through, deciding how much we give up to our automation and how much we want to keep to ourselves, because it's kind of like, as a person, I feel kind of uncomfortable thinking that all the driving is going to be done by computers. I'm not going to have any hand in it.
Yeah.
But then they do it better. So.
Yeah, they do it better. It sounds a lot more convenient, too. But I mean, there is a certain thrill to driving a car sometimes. Driving's nice. But obviously, if you're going on a long car trip, you're driving from, part of a state to the other part of the state. It gets, it gets boring.
It's very tedious.
Very tedious, yes.
Especially North Dakota. Not long to look at.
That's true. Definitely. So, I mean, if it was like a turn on, turn off thing, especially, I could see it.
Oh, yeah. And that's probably, I would say, how it would start, You're not just going to go to the car dealership and buy a driverless car 20 years from now. You're probably going to get some sort of hybrid where it's you drive by itself on the interstate, but in the city, you have to take over.
Yeah, that would make sense, too, because, I mean, interstates kind of, they're more mechanical already, And
it's a much less complex environment.
Exactly.
More apt for a computer to handle.
Exactly. And, I can say, honestly, 2012 has made me excited a lot for the future. What we're going to discover this year, what we're going to discover next year, where we're going.
Yeah, the world's going to be crazy when we're 50, Wyatt.
Yes, it is. But I guess, because it goes so slowly, you know what I mean? You kind of acclimate to it, so it probably won't seem like it, but I'm sure we'll look back and think, wow, life is different. I'm sure we all will.
Yeah, we'll look back to this podcast and be like, I remember when driverless cars were a new thing.
Yeah, exactly. I bet it will be the standard by then. But, thanks for being on the show today, Ben.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yep, and, thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time.